Hello there gamers, and welcome back to the final part, for now, of this Life is Strange review series. Today we are doing the most recent game in the series, Life is Strange 2. Now, Life is Strange 2 is easily the longest in the franchise. This game takes place very soon after the events of Life is Strange 1. Now, there are references to the other plot, but for the most part, this is a completely new and original story with all new characters. Now, my feelings about this game are a little confusing. I personally believe that the very first game is the most consistently fun and interesting. However, overall, I'm certain that 2 is the best game in the series. Before the Storm just sorta kinda happened, it's fine enough, but easily the least interesting. But I'm gonna say that Life is Strange 2 is one of the greatest stories in a video game I've ever seen. I absolutely love the story here, and the overall gameplay is still fantastic. Much better than Before the Storm. Oh yeah, and before we begin, this should be the last time I have to say this in this series. Please stay away from this game if you are sensitive to dark themes or are very young. This game is probably the least family friendly in the series. There's a reason the other two games are rated 16, but this one's rated 18. So let's get into the story. Strap yourselves in guys, because this is going to be a long one. We open on Sean Diaz, who is the main character here. He's a pretty good protagonist in this game, certainly better than Max for sure. We talk to this girl and she invites us to a Halloween party. Here we go inside and meet our pain in the ass little brother Daniel. We also meet our very good and compassionate father. He dies later, what? We talk to our friend again, and then we see Daniel getting threatened by our asshole neighbor because Daniel got fake blood on him. We try and get him away from Daniel, but then we find out that our neighbor is in fact a racist. Wait, did I mention Sean's family is Mexican? Oh, well, now you know. Our neighbor is rightfully punched in the face, and then the cops show up. They think this kid got stabbed or something because of the fake blood. Then our dad shows up and tries to reason with the cop, and then he gets shot and killed. Now I was surprised by this, but I was only surprised that it was this soon. Like, if you ever played a game in the Life is Strange series, then you definitely saw this coming. He was just too killable. I mean, come on. A kind and compassionate father? He was dead as soon as we saw him. We don't see a lot here, we just see Daniel scream and then we black out. Then we wake up and see that the cop is dead and the garden was wrecked. We then cut to 2 days later and Daniel and Sean are on the run from the cops. We plan on going to Mexico where our dad grew up. We eventually find a place to camp. In the middle of the night, Daniel wakes up confused and appears to have forgotten a lot. The next day we go into a petrol station and go for supplies. We then talk to a very nice online journalist who has kind of cool uncle vibes. His name is Brody. We try to steal food, but end up getting locked in the back by the owner of the shop. Eventually we escape and are saved by Brody. We also steal a stray dog, I guess. Neat. Daniel decides to name him Mushroom because he looks like a mushroom. Yeah, and I look like a fringed pine sap. As we're on the run, we get a neat little cameo of Arcadia Bay from the first two games, which was pretty cool. Brody fixes us up with a motel and some cash. When we get to the motel, Daniel sees on the news that our dad has died and is furious that we didn't tell him. He gets so mad that he makes the furniture fly. Ah, kids these days, always doing stuff like that when they're in a grump. He eventually calms down and we make up. Now we're in chapter 2, and now you'll probably realize what I mean when I say this is the longest game in the series. We're in the woods and it's nearing Christmas. We're training Daniel to use his powers. Basically, he has the Force. We're currently living in an old abandoned house, but we have to leave as Daniel has developed the flu. We get ready to leave to go to our grandparents' house when Daniel's dog Mushroom gets killed by a lion? A lynx? Hold up. Okay, I just googled it and it was a creature called a cougar? I think that's how to pronounce it. We arrive at our grandparents and they take us in. This next bit is kind of boring, to be honest. We basically just hang around our grandparents' house until nothing happens. Now, before this game was released, a playable teaser called Captain Spirit came out. You play as a little kid named Chris and his alcoholic father. Chris likes to pretend he's a superhero and his dad likes to pretend that he's mentally healthy. This is because his wife died a few months back. Eventually the dad gets super drunk and lashes out on Chris.
And if it wasn't for you, she would have never taken the car that day.
And Chris runs away to his treehouse. As he's climbing up, he falls down, but is saved by Daniel. And that's the end of the playable teaser. Cutting back to this game, we see Chris falling out the tree and Daniel saves him. Then his dad comes out to apologize. but that's not enough to make me forgive him. Daniel and Chris become fast friends, and we eventually go out to buy a Christmas tree with Chris and his dad. There we meet some very nice stoners named Finn and Cassidy. They're important, so remember them. Daniel tells Chris that he is the one with the superpowers and that he saved himself. When we get back, Daniel decides to go to the room of our mum. She left us when Daniel was a baby. There isn't much explanation why, she just sort of ran away one day and started a new life. Our grandma comes in and we get shouted at for snooping. But this happened at a pretty bad time because just as she's shouting at us, the cops show up. So we're on the run again. That's the end of the second chapter. It was kinda boring to be honest, but luckily the rest of the game is super exciting. We wake up in a tent and now we're working on a weed farm with a 9-year-old brother and the stoners we met at the garden center. Yeah, this chapter's weird. Then we go and see that Finn and Daniel are throwing knives together. Now, this is the chapter when we get some Daniel angst. He really hates us here, and in retrospect, I think this was kind of Finn's fault. He sort of manipulates Daniel here. But the first time I played, I loved Finn. He was honestly my favorite character. We start trimming the, and then we play a really fun game of Osu. We go and have a little bonding time with Daniel, and it seems like maybe he's starting to like us again. And all of a sudden he does, well, this.
Daniel, stop it! Stop it, Daniel!
I'm not a kid anymore.
Well man, chill out. Later we're getting paid by the owner of the farm, and then we tell Daniel to wait outside. But of course he doesn't listen, because he's a little asshole. Then as punishment, nobody gets paid, and Sean and Daniel are fired. As the guard is about to struck Daniel, Daniel throws an ashtray at him with his powers. Then the guard thinks it's Finn. Finn is punched, and now Cassidy, Finn, and some other kid named Jacob knows about Daniel's powers. Later we're talking to Finn, and he asks to steal the money. We accept to go on this little heist, and then we kiss Finn. But I'm pretty sure that this was only really in the playthrough I chose, because there's a playthrough where you can kiss Cassidy. This game definitely branches off a lot more than any other Life is Strange game. We go try to steal the money from Merrill, who owns the farm, but then he comes out with a shotgun. Daniel then uses his power to take down Merrill, but gets shot in the shoulder. Daniel then explodes in rage, so everyone is injured and Daniel runs away. Kind of a dick move to leave us all for dead. So now we're in chapter 4. We woke up in the hospital with a shaved head and one eye. We've been here for quite a long time, and this is the last day before we're sent to jail. Daniel has gone missing and there's a search party out to find him. We later find out that Jacob, who is the random kid that knows about Daniel's power, is with Daniel in Arizona. We immediately try to escape. We go through quite a long, time-consuming puzzle on how to escape, but eventually we do escape. We climb down and see Finn in a hospital bed, and we have a little heart-to-heart with him, but now it's time to steal a car and hit the roads. We park up and sleep, but we are awakened by the owners of the land. And guess what? They're racist too.
See, senor? So, one more lesson. How do you say, "This is not my country"?
Man, everyone in this game is very racist. Eventually they make us speak Spanish and I refuse. Then they threaten us and make us sing in Spanish. Now I sorta gave in here because I thought they would probably actually kill me. This is an incredibly powerful scene and it made me super bad for giving in. They let us go and it's the next day. We get a lift in a truck to where we need to meet Jacob. Pretty much the only thing in this town is a church. So curiously, we go inside and listen to what they have to say. The woman running the church then talks about the church's latest miracle. Then, she brings out Daniel, rocking a bowl cut. And he believes that he's been sent down by God, and demonstrates his holy power. Did I say this chapter's weird? We go and meet Daniel, and he's happy to see us. We try and take him back, but he refuses and says that the church is his new family. And we get thrown out. Yeah, this chapter is quite weird. So basically, this church is pretty corrupt and honestly shares more in common with a cult than a church. But hey, I'm not judging. I'm a Nintendo fan. I know all about being in cults. Then, right behind us, we meet our mother. She takes us back to her hotel room and we talk about why she left. We don't really get a good answer though, she just kind of decided to. We meet up with Jacob and he explains why Daniel is in all this. Jacob took Daniel back to his family and his family's super religious, so they talked him into joining the church. Daniel joined because he wanted to make up for his sins for blowing up the farm. We break back into the church and take back Daniel. or at least we try to. He doesn't really want to. Then he sends us into a wall. We try to talk to Daniel, but this dude keeps beating us down. Oh no, yeah, the building's on fire now. Eventually, Daniel sees what is going on here and uses his power to save us. We escape, and the scene of us leaving is actually really well done. The fact that there's no music or any sound here is really good. Now, here in the last chapter, it opens with us sitting at a canyon. Daniel has gotten over his angsty phase, and we're very near Mexico. We're currently living in a trailer in what is essentially a very nice dump site. There's all kinds of lively characters here, like a cool hippie lady who makes sculptures, a gay couple, and David, Chloe's stepdad from the first 2 games. Holy shit. We later pack up and hit the road and go to Mexico. We go up to the border and Daniel rips open Trump's wall. Hell yeah. We pack up to leave, but then Daniel gets grazed by a bullet by immigration officers. They think we're trying to get into America from Mexico. And yeah, they don't treat us great. Then we're rescued by a real cop. It looks like things are starting to look up. Until he recognizes us as Sean Diaz. And we're arrested. We get interrogated, but then Daniel comes to rescue us. We break out and head back to the border, but the border's completely surrounded by cops. Now, there are a lot of endings here, and I think I got the best one. We tell Daniel to use his power and stop the bullets and blow away all the cars and everything. We escape to Mexico, and we get a small video of 6 years later after we escape. Sean and Daniel appear to be working in some kind of car repair shop, and also part of some kind of mafia. This is an amazing sequence. Once again, there's no dialogue, just subtle music. One of the final shots is of Sean lighting a cigarette with his dad's old lighter. I'm not crying, you are. And then the game ends with a great finale and leaving me a teary mess. Now, there are twice as more endings here than in any other Life is Strange game. The other games only had 2 endings, while this game has 4. There's one ending where Sean is put in jail and Daniel gets under house arrest with his grandparents. Another where it's the same but Sean gets released and have a little reunion with Daniel. And there's another where Sean actually dies, leaving Daniel in Mexico alone, rocking blonde hair and a taste for blood. So that was the end of Life is Strange 2, and as of now, it's the most recent game of the series. Life is Strange True Colors is coming out pretty soon, and I'm super excited, it looks awesome. So in short, how do I feel about this game? Guys, I think I found it. I think this might be my favorite game of all time. Now let's be real here, my favorite game changes all the time. I'm sure in 2 months my favorite game will be Garfield Car or something. But this is definitely the best game in the series. And the first game in my opinion is the most consistently good, but 2 takes bigger risks, has a more interesting story, more branching paths, more emotion and more endings. This truly is the ultimate Life is Strange game. And while True Colors does look really good, I think it's going to be hard to top this. So I hope you enjoyed this final episode, and I will see you soon.